This week's Town Talk brings Pembroke Town Administrator Ed Thorne back to our set.
Julie, always a pleasure being here.
Always a pleasure having you. We always learn a lot of info about Pembroke.
We try to get it out.
That's what you do. So the big things that are going on in Pembroke right now, and it's probably going to take a lot of 2017, are the four major buildings and/or departments that need to be rerouted and rebuilt, which is the community center, the fire station, the police station, and the DPW building. So talk about them one at a time.
Yeah, these are projects that, we've been looking at for over 10 years. And of course, the community center had an exhaustive study done about 4 years ago. So we had that on the back burner, and all we need to do is update, some information on that. But they did a great job in analyzing the building and seeing whether or not it would be prudent to restore the building or to actually literally build a new one behind the existing building. But there's no doubt in our mind that there's a need for that particular building. When people say, well, why don't we use the schools are being used almost 24/7.
That's right.
And there has to be some downtime for the schools because they're used so often and so much that it actually takes a whole summer for us to clean up, 5 buildings.
Right.
And then, of course, when we purchased the property at the corner of 53 and 14.
Which we did at the last town meeting.
Absolutely, last spring. That paved the way for some checkers being played by the various departments. So right now the plan is to move the fire station from the center of town to the intersection of 14 and 53, move the police station, which is right next to town hall, into the existing fire station building. So we will probably have an agreement with an engineering firm very shortly, and that'll start the ball rolling on a space needs study for those 2 departments.
Okay.
While that's going on, the DPW Commission has also commissioned a space needs study for their buildings out on Mattakesa Street. And they'll be looking at whether or not they're going to renovate buildings, create new ones, what have you. So there's a ton of stuff going on in town for 2017. And it's going to be the year of the big projects. Which
we've put off and put off and put off year after year after year. And the youngest building of all those is about 40 years old.
That's correct.
Yeah, so they don't owe us anything.
Even when people say the new library, the new library is 18 years old.
I know, which is incredible. Yeah. So, now, is it best to be able to tackle all 4 of these projects really as a big package versus trying to tackle them one at a time?
Well,
financially.
That's going to be the $64,000 question because, that's going to take a lot of concerted effort by our advisory, the school committee, the selectmen, department heads, about coming up with a game plan, and hopefully we would have that available for the spring. Now, whether or not we do anything in the spring or we wait till the fall and have it at the next town election in the spring of 2018, that's decisions that are going to be made, and it's going to be made by a consensus of the community.
Sure. Now, what's the most important one to get done, or the most critical one to get done first? What would you think would be the first one that we have to do?
I think all of them are going to need to be done. I think that we have a situation at the community center where it's a building almost 24/7.
It is. It's constantly used.
Constantly, it's nickel and diming us. Whether it's windows or whether it's heating units or whatever. It's
a money
just
pit.
Really.
It's a money pit.
And we're seeing that in some of the other buildings. So we really need to look at it. Have a concise report for all of the buildings and sit down and like I said earlier, come up with a consensus about how we're going to tackle the four structures.
And we would have to renovate one before we could move people. Like you can't move the police department into the existing fire station until you renovate the fire station.
Exactly.
And you can't move the people out of the community center that are using it 24/7 until you have something else built behind it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
those are
things
one thing all depends on another, which is why we have to kind of do it all at once.
I'm not suggesting that we are, but that would seem to be the simplest plan, and we're just going to have to see what effect it's going to have on on our taxpayers
Right.
because it's going to be a
big
very
one.
serious
Yep,
project.
Yep. But it's worth it because our town has expanded greatly and we have a fabulous town and we got to match it with the buildings that house these very important
There's no doubt
departments.
in our minds that our infrastructure needs to catch up with the growing population.
Right. I agree. Okay, more to follow, more to come.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we thank Ed, and we will be back again, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course.